Hey everybody, welcome back to Brandy Shallow Ministries, 5 Minutes of Faith, a brand new video series that we just kicked off a couple of weeks ago. We kicked off our new video series with a godly principle founded in Genesis 8:22 of seed, time, and harvest. And essentially what this principle is that God really is making us a promise. And what he says is, as long as the earth exists, we're always going to have an opportunity to sow, which means we're always going to have an opportunity to reap. So why is that important? Well, what we said a couple of weeks ago is that it's important because whether we know it or not, every second of the day we are sowing. We're sowing our thoughts, our words, and our actions, which means every second of the day we're reaping what we've sown with our thoughts, our words, and our actions. So over the last couple of weeks, we spent some time talking about the seed, which is the thing that we're believing God for, the prayers, the thing that we're planting, and we talked about the harvest. And essentially what we've said is that the seed has to be intentional. We've got to sow an intentional seed. And what we've said about the harvest is that that harvest must be in alignment with God's word. To hear more about the seed and the harvest, I encourage you to take a look at the first two videos a couple weeks ago. So, what are we doing today? Today, we are going to talk about the waiting period, the time. That is, the time that exists from the moment that we've sown that seed, believing God for something, prayed for something, and the moment that God answered our prayers. That's the harvest that comes in. And so that period of time in between is what we're going to talk about today. So go ahead and grab a piece of paper and a pen and let's get ready to rock and roll. 3 quick points about the time. While you're waiting for God to answer your prayers, while you're waiting for your harvest to come in, there are 3 things that we want to make sure that we do that prepares us for our harvest, that makes sure that we get the harvest that we're believing God for. 3 quick points. Point number 1 is be prepared for your harvest. While you're waiting for God to answer your prayers, go ahead and be prepared. Here's what I mean. If we're believing God for a brand new job, we've been unemployed for a while and we're really praying to him to give us a job. Well, let's prepare ourselves for that job. Go ahead and get an interview outfit. Go ahead and practice interview questions, but prepare yourself to receive the harvest that God has in store. Point number 2, be patient. Mostly when we are waiting on God to answer our prayers, we have a tendency to become impatient, which means that we try to control every situation, every circumstance in our lives while we're waiting for God to answer our prayers, which means we are trying to manipulate the outcome, the harvest. Well, to the extent that we've got our hands on it is the extent to which God has his hands off. But if we release it, and we let it go while we're waiting and we're being patient to allow him to do his thing, then we can expect to reap the harvest that we've been praying to God for. So be patient. Point number 3, be not prideful. Now this is important during this waiting period. Now pride doesn't always just mean exclusively that we think that we are the best thing next to sliced bread. Pride is actually also jealousy. Here's what that looks like. While you're waiting for God to answer your prayers, you see that God is answering so-and-so's prayers. And that has got you a little perturbed. And so now you think, well, why is God answering their prayers? Why does he have it and I don't have it? Why does she have this and I don't have that? The moment that we do that, the spirit of jealousy rises up in us. We start thinking jealous thoughts. We start saying jealous words and taking actions. And remember, if we sow jealousy, bitterness, and contention, we're reaping jealousy, bitterness, and contention. The other part about pride, and many of us don't think of this, but pride is also being a perpetual victim. This is staying in this place of a pity party. This is where we're saying, woe is me. I never get this. God never answers my prayers. It's always a struggle for me. And then we are wallowing in this place of pity. The problem with that is to the extent that we become pitiful, we can't be powerful. And it also means that we don't trust God to answer our prayers. And so when that happens, we have a chance to cancel the good seed that we've sown. But it's time for us to reap this harvest that we've been believing God for. It's time for us to be prepared. It's time for us to be patient. And it's time for us to be not prideful. Family, this has been our godly principle of seed time and harvest. We've talked about the seed, be intentional. We talked about the harvest, make sure it's in alignment with God's word. And we talked about what we should be doing while we're waiting for God to answer our prayers, which is being prepared, being patient, and being not prideful. I hope this has been a blessing to you all. I look forward to seeing you next week. We kick off a brandy new video series that you are going to just love. I appreciate you all for watching. See you next week. Be blessed.